Exposing Workplace Bullying, where we pull back the curtain and have real conversations about workplace abuse. I'm your host, Dr. Jan Kircher. This is Episode 3, Lessening the Toll of Workplace Bullying. Today, we're talking about the real cost, not the missed deadlines, but the real cost to you, to your body, to your mind, and your very sense of who you are. Abuse at work is a slow, deliberate erosion. It's being systematically humiliated in front of your peers. It's watching your projects be quietly reassigned, your contributions erased or stolen by someone else. It's the calculated silence from colleagues who suddenly look away. Individually, you could explain any of these away: a bad day, a misunderstanding, but together they form a sustained campaign with one clear purpose: to make you doubt your own worth, your own memory, and your own reality, personally and professionally. Together, they are workplace abuse. And just like all abuse, it causes deep, lasting trauma. It doesn't stay at your desk or at work. It follows you home. It invades your sleep. It rewires your nervous system. It changes who you are. We are taught to recognize trauma in obvious places, on battlefields, in violent homes. We are never taught to see it in the quiet cruelty of the modern office, in a healthcare setting, at the doctor's office, or at our clinic. But the absence of a fist does not negate the presence of violence. The blows are to your psyche, your reputation, your sanity, and that kind of violence leaves its own deep scars. And we must remember, just because someone is a nurse, a doctor, a teacher, or a social worker does not mean they are not abusers at work. In fact, the culture of self-sacrifice in these quote-unquote helping professions can often provide the perfect cover for this kind of abuse to thrive unseen and unchallenged. To understand the true toll of workplace bullying, you have to understand that it's never just one wound. It's a series of betrayals. To understand the true toll of workplace bullying, you have to understand it is never just one wound. It's a series of betrayals, each one layering on top of another trauma. Let's talk about the 3 layers of trauma caused by workplace bullying. The first layer is the primary trauma, the direct abuse from the bully or bullies if you have more than one. The words, the threats, the public humiliation. That's the first wound. And some days it happens over and over and over. The second layer is the secondary trauma, the betrayal of bystanders. The people who see what's happening and choose silence or inaction. These colleagues who look away, or worse, join in, cause another layer of trauma. Their inaction confirms the bully's message that you are isolated and unworthy of protection. The third layer is the tertiary trauma, the betrayal of the system, of the organization you work in. This is when your boss or human resources dismisses your complaint, reframes you as the problem, or simply does nothing. The very structures meant to ensure safety instead deepen the abuse. These layers build on one another. Remember last episode when I told you about my colleague who charged around the table at me in a meeting? That was the first layer, the primary trauma against me, a direct assault on my safety and dignity. In that same meeting came the secondary trauma. I looked up, tried to make eye contact with others at the table, but they were all hanging their head and they did nothing. Later, some even lied and said that the charging around the table was my imagination and it never happened. Their silence and their lies betrayed my trust in them and in my own perception of reality. It added to the primary trauma of having a colleague charge around the table at me. And finally, the tertiary trauma, the damage done by my supervisor, human resources, and the organization. I reported it immediately after the meeting to my supervisor. She did nothing. When I went to HR, they didn't protect me. They betrayed me. In fact, they said I was difficult, that I was the problem. They did nothing to the person who caused the abuse. The very system designed to protect me reinforced the bully's message that I was worthless and disposable. 3 layers of trauma, each one compounding the last. That's why it can't be dismissed as just stress or a bad boss. This is why the trauma from workplace bullying rewires your nervous system and it shatters your sense of self. These layers of trauma impact who you are both at home and at work. You become hypervigilant, constantly scanning for the next threat. It seems like you're paranoid, but it's a learned survival mechanism. The environment that you're working in teaches you that anyone could be turned against you at a moment's notice, and many times the whole organization is against you. So you stop speaking up in meetings. You stop trusting your own judgment. You find yourself constantly asking, what is wrong with me? Why can't I handle this? Am I that hard to get along with? Your mind gets stuck on a loop because the trauma is actively reshaping how you see yourself and your entire world. And it's not just about confidence or identity. Workplace bullying takes a serious toll on your mental health. People who are bullied are more likely to experience anxiety, depression, and even suicidal thoughts. And it doesn't stop at your emotions. It shows up in your body. The racing heart when you see their name in your inbox, the headaches and the stomach aches that never go away, the sleepless nights where your mind won't shut off and you can't stop thinking about the bully. And if you've already lived with some health challenges, trust me, bullying makes those worse. For me, it showed up in my blood sugar. I've been diabetic since I was 13. So by the time I was in my job, I had lived with it for 30 years. Toward the end, my blood sugar suddenly skyrocketed and it wouldn't go down. I told myself, well, Jan, you're no spring chicken. I was getting older. Maybe this just happens to diabetics when you've had it for decades. But then the day I left that job, my blood sugar went back to normal, almost instantaneously. And it's never been that high for that long again. And that's when the light bulb moment went on and I realized This wasn't about my age or my disease. It was about abuse and trauma. That job had been poisoning my body just as much as it had been poisoning my spirit. And for the record, in all my years with all the doctors, and even when I went to therapy, not once has anyone ever asked me about my work environment. Not one person has ever said, "Do you feel safe at work?" Or, "Could your job be part of what's hurting your health?" That kind of silence matters because it means workplace trauma and workplace bullying are going unrecognized, even in the spaces where we're supposed to be able to get help. That's why workplace bullying can never be brushed off as just part of the job or just a bad boss. It's not just about your work. It's also your health and it's your life. And so the question becomes, if we can't always stop the abuse, how do we protect ourselves from being destroyed by it? How do we really lessen the toll? We've been told over and over that when you're being bullied, you're powerless, that you're just doomed workers who have to take it. And at work, you hear it too, outright. "Jan, you're the troublemaker. You're the problem." And those messages, they seep into who we are. Little by little, you start to believe them. You start to believe you're powerless. I start to think, yep, I am the troublemaker. But here's the truth. You are not and never were and never will be powerless. You are powerful. The work is in finding your way back to your power. And that starts with a mind shift. Stop centering on the bully's power and start reclaiming your own. I know that when you're bullied, all you want is for somebody to stop it. You look to human resources, your manager, your supervisor, and maybe even the union. And when they don't step in or believe you or do a damn thing, it feels like you lost. You feel powerless. Again, the message that you don't matter is reinforced. The reality is you don't need anyone to save you. Your mind shift is focusing on what you can control. You never could and never will be able to control the bully or HR or your supervisor, but you can control yourself. The very first move is simple, but crucial. You build a wall or an invisible barrier around you that says, "Bully, you don't get to touch who I am, and your abuse isn't affecting me." The barrier says, "You don't get to define me, and you don't get to disrupt my peace." But I'm a realist, and here's one thing I know. That barrier won't hold on its own. You have to reinforce it because you're working against a bully who is doing everything in their power to tear it down every single day. For me, it was like putting on armor before I walked into work. I always visualized myself putting it on and walking in. That picture in my mind helped me hold the line. You can always try affirmations or self-talk. It doesn't matter how you do it. Whatever keeps the barrier strong, do it, because that's what protects you. That's what's going to protect you from workplace bullying taking its toll. You have to tell yourself that too, over and over. Who cares what they think? Who cares what they say? You know the truth, even if no one else does. Your opinion of yourself is the only one that matters, period. So when the bully threw attacks, when they threw their words, their gaslighting, focusing on you does not mean you're excusing their behavior. It means refusing to let their chaos and abuse dictate your every move. You can't control whether the bully changes, and they're probably not, but you can control how much access they have to your energy, your attention, and who you are. And protecting yourself is key to not letting the workplace abuse take a toll on you. Another important step to lessening the impact of bullying on you is to remember why you loved your job in the first place. Bullying can drown that out, but it doesn't erase it. Those things are still there. Maybe you love solving problems, helping clients, teaching students, or creating something new. Maybe it's that sense of purpose or the relationships with people who actually value you. Whatever it is, focus there. That part of your work belongs to you, not the bully. The next step is shifting your focus towards those things that keep you steady at home and work. Really, that's just a fancy way of saying, hey, if you're being bullied, you need self-care. Bullying tries to strip away not just your peace, but also your passion. Reclaiming even a piece of that joy is part of lessening the toll. At work, that focus might look small from the outside, but it's powerful. For me, it was coffee. Every day I'd step outside and buy myself a cup, not because I needed the caffeine, but because it was something that I could do that was tender and loving, a way of reminding myself that I mattered. It was something I could look forward to when everything else around me was trying to convince me that I didn't matter. The ritual gave me a moment of my peace and dignity that no one could take away. Do things at home that make you happy, your hobbies or whatever it is. For me at home, it was gaming. I played World of Warcraft. Yes, that's right, you heard it. I played World of Warcraft and I loved the player versus player battles. When I was in the middle of workplace bullying, those battles and those battlegrounds were a release in the game. I could fight and I could even win. It gave me back my sense of power when work was stripping it away. A cup of coffee, a video game, a walk in the garden, a laugh with a friend. These aren't small things. These are lifelines when you're being abused. They tether you back to yourself and remind you that you are more than just workplace trauma. So it's so important that you schedule those things at home and work every day to remind yourself, I matter. Sometimes lessening the toll also means seeking support. But here's the truth. Coaching and therapy are not the same thing. Therapy helps you heal. Coaching helps you act. You may need one, the other, or both, but knowing the difference gives you power. Let's be honest, this is not easy. None of this is easy. You are living through workplace bullying, but you're still showing up every day in a place that's unsafe and you can't control whether the abuse stops or not. But you can lessen the toll. Protecting your peace, remembering your worth, holding on to the pieces of yourself that matter most. That is survival, but it's also resistance. Lessening a toll isn't about waiting for someone else to step in. It's about refusing to let them take you from you. And that's how you keep going, even in the middle of it, by focusing on you. Next week, we're digging in even deeper with the bully's playbook. I'll break down the tactics bullies use so you can see the patterns clearly and start taking their power away. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. If this episode hit home, check out stopbullyculture.com, where I share tools, resources, and real talk to help you deal with workplace abuse. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, share it with them. Until next time.
They gaslight and plot, play their games. Witness a smile, you're part of the shame. Your boss stays silent, closing the door. How many voices will they ignore? The bully lies, the brave get burned. The office watches, no lessons learned. Your boss hides, truth gets colder. It's time to stop the bully culture.